Every morning, Manuel and Cristina defy the traffic and pollution of Sao Paulo to go to work.
Life in Sao Paulo is always frenetic. There are many people, there's always plenty to do. There's never a quiet week or a quiet weekend. Everything always goes at 1,000 miles an hour.
Brazil's economic capital is their adopted city. Both left the crisis in Portugal for a new start. They brought their expertise to this civil engineering firm. The work is non-stop, they say.
In Europe, aside from the crisis, the pace is slower. Europe has already got things that Brazil hasn't yet managed to get. That's why in Brazil, you have to run faster to catch up with the greater economies.
Cristina and Manuel were recruited by a compatriot who settled in Brazil 40 years ago. The demand for engineers from Europe remains strong, he says.
They benefit from something that unfortunately is lacking in Brazil: education. People come from abroad with different educational backgrounds, with much higher university standards. And, in a way, by coming here, they help compensate for this lack.
The couple intends to stay in Brazil for as long as fortune favours them, but there are uncertainties.
The biggest fear now is the elections, because if another party comes to power, it may be more careful about public accounts. In recent years, it was all spending, and huge public works. The risk is that the next government will say, stop. We know there's a limit. We've reached a point that is no longer sustainable.
Other European immigrants are drawn to a Brazilian services market crying out for innovation. Donato left Spain after his construction sector company was hit hard in the crisis that devastated the industry. He settled in Brazil after meeting Marina there. The keen travellers opened a language exchange agency a few months ago. But it wasn't easy.
We had problems, not only to open our business, but also for him to have valid papers, so that he can go back and forth between Brazil and Spain, and so that we can make our professional trips without any problems. We almost have a master's degree in Brazilian bureaucracy.
It's complicated, because they ask you for things you don't have. A new company that hasn't started operating doesn't have any bills or banking history, and without them, the bank doesn't want to open a business account for you.
After negotiating the bureaucratic obstacle course, the company grew quickly. The couple created 2 branches in Europe, 1 in Canada, and intends to become a leader of the sector in Brazil. They're confident the market has potential.
Brazil has a very strong internal economy. What happened to us in Europe, which ground to a halt overnight because of the US economy, can't happen here. The economy might be slowing down, but if it drops, it will rise again.
Our next stop is Bacio di Latte, a company set up by an Italian-Scottish pair. Since the creation of their first luxury ice cream parlour in Sao Paulo 4 years ago, they've opened a dozen other outlets. But it wasn't plain sailing, trying to thrive in a niche market that hadn't previously existed in Brazil.
There's a phrase, Brazil is not for beginners, and I guarantee that's true. From permissions to complications to how long a building site can be delayed, because on paper it all looks fantastic, the schedule's perfect, the price is correct. The reality is nobody's working, it's delayed, it doesn't happen on time, and meanwhile your budget's getting burned.
The hard work and determination paid off. The partners now employ some 200 people across their outlets and plan to open new parlours in Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro.
The Brazilian, compared to the European, is much more hungry for innovation, new things, different things. Europeans, whether Italian, English, French, Scottish, are much more traditionalist.
If you compared Brazil and Europe to 2 people, The European would be the 70-year-old with a very spectacular life, lots of amazing experiences, but not a lot of future. Brazil's the 15-year-old who's got the whole life in front, might make some huge mistakes, but hopefully there's room to grow into something better.
Fortune doesn't smile on all who try their luck in Brazil. A year ago, Luis from Barcelona set up an agency in Rio to help Europeans settle here. Ill-advised and ill-prepared, many find themselves empty-handed after their tourist visas expire. Lacking work permits, they soon become illegal immigrants.
There are foreigners who come here without a job, without a place to live, and with very few resources. They come here thinking they'll live in Copacabana, in one of these buildings, that they will just open the window and see the sea. And they soon realize that no, it's not like that. They go to live in a favela, in the suburbs where there's no security, drug trafficking, and that's what they find.
Since the so-called policy of pacification, more and more foreigners have settled in the favelas to open up guest houses or other tourism businesses. In the Vidigal favela, we meet Marco from Italy. Prohibitive rents in Rio led him here. He opened a small pizzeria with his girlfriend. They love their life in Vidigal, but it's not always easy.
It's difficult to live in a favela like this. There are transport and housing problems. Because of the World Cup, and after that the Olympic Games, rents have tripled in only a few months. You pay dear while you live in an area where there are hardly any services.
Others did benefit from the World Cup effect. In the heart of Rio, Olivier and his two French partners have profited from the Brazilians' love of football, a passion they share. They created the first urban football pitch, a lucrative niche in a city where space is scarce.
We're really in a consumer country, so it works. Though Brazilians held back a little at the beginning, it's still football, and it's very convenient. It's close to their workplace, close to home, so people quickly came here to play.
But there have been discouraging days too for the partners.
Brazil's not an El Dorado. People have always thought it was one. Those people always had setbacks. We persevered because there were three of us, but honestly, I think 99% of the people I've met during these 4 years have gone back home.